Night had fallen gently across the desert, wrapping the landscape in quiet majesty. Stars shimmered above, countless and ancient, painting the sky with light that seemed alive. In that vast silence, a lone traveler named Jacob wandered beneath the constellations, his heart heavy with fear and uncertainty. He had left his home behind, burdened by guilt and longing, unsure of what awaited him in the wilderness ahead. The ground beneath his feet was cold and rough, and the darkness pressed close, but the heavens above seemed to whisper promises of something greater. Within that solitude, destiny was preparing to speak. When exhaustion finally overtook him, Jacob placed his head upon a stone and closed his eyes beneath the endless canopy of stars. Sleep came slowly, carrying him beyond the reach of his troubles, into a realm where light and mystery intertwined. In that sacred stillness, the veil between worlds lifted, and he saw what few have ever seen, a ladder rising from the earth toward the heart of heaven. It shimmered with radiance, alive with movement and purpose. Angels of light ascended and descended upon it, flowing like streams of fire, carrying unseen messages between realms. Above the ladder, a voice resounded, not in thunder or storm, but in calm authority that shook the soul. It called Jacob by name, affirming promises made long before him. The same voice that had spoken to his ancestors now spoke again, offering blessing, guidance, and a destiny that stretched beyond his imagination. It was a moment that joined heaven and earth, a revelation that transformed an ordinary place into sacred ground. The dream did not simply comfort him, it awakened him to the reality that the divine was not distant, but present, woven into the very fabric of existence. When Jacob opened his eyes, dawn had begun to break. Golden light spilled across the stones, and he felt the air around him charged with a holiness that words could not describe. What had been wilderness only hours before now pulsed with sacred meaning. Trembling, he whispered, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it." His heart overflowed with awe as he realized that heaven had not remained in the sky. It had touched the earth right where he lay. The stone that had been his pillow became a pillar, anointed as a sign of divine encounter, marking the ground as Bethel, the house of God. That moment changed not only Jacob's path, but the course of spiritual history. His vision became a symbol for all humanity, the reminder that the divine connection is real, continuous, and near. The ladder of light remains an eternal image of hope, showing that every soul has access to the same living bridge between heaven and earth. Through his dream, Jacob learned that faith is not about building towers to reach God, but about recognizing when heaven descends into our own lives, transforming ordinary moments into revelations of love and purpose. Jacob's night beneath the stars invites us to pause and remember that the divine still speaks, often when we feel most alone. The same sky that watched over him shines above us now, waiting for hearts open enough to see its light. If stories like this one move your spirit and deepen your faith, make sure to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice helps this community grow, and together we can continue exploring the mysteries of faith, history, and divine truth that still echo across time. Darkness wrapped the wilderness in silence as Jacob wandered far from home, his footsteps tracing a path through stones and shadows. He carried the weight of his choices and the fear of his brother's vengeance, his heart echoing with guilt and uncertainty. Every sound of the desert seemed magnified, every whisper of wind like a reminder of his solitude. He was a man stripped of comfort, separated from family and safety, with only the vastness of creation surrounding him. The night sky above stretched like a veil of mystery, its constellations ancient and watching, as if the heavens themselves bore witness to his exile. A cold wind brushed his face as he looked upward, finding both terror and peace in the boundless canopy of stars. Each light shimmered with a quiet pulse, distant yet alive, as though inviting him to listen to something beyond his understanding. His body was weary from travel, but his spirit was restless, stirred by a yearning he could not name. Beneath the immensity of that celestial ocean, human concerns began to fade, replaced by a deeper awareness of presence, something unseen but tangible. He found a stone, smooth and heavy, and placed it beneath his head. Lying on the hard ground, he felt the fragility of his existence and the closeness of eternity pressing upon him. Sleep came not as escape, but as surrender. Between the boundaries of wakefulness and dream, the ordinary dissolved, and he drifted into a vision luminous and infinite. His senses were drawn upward toward a light that appeared to descend from the heavens, connecting earth and sky in one seamless stream. It was as if reality itself had opened, revealing layers unseen before. He was no longer merely a fugitive, but a witness to something cosmic, something sacred. The stars that moments earlier had seemed unreachable now appeared woven into the structure of his vision, their glow feeding the radiance of the ladder that rose before him. Fear and wonder merged within him as he watched movement along this shining ascent. Angelic figures moved with effortless grace, their forms bright as fire, yet gentle as breath. They passed each other in silence, each motion charged with purpose, each descent bringing a ripple of divine energy through the air. Jacob felt the vibration of their presence resonate in his body, a frequency of holiness that transcended all language. Between heaven and earth, the messengers traveled as if maintaining balance in the fabric of existence, bridging realms in a rhythm older than time. When the voice spoke, it was not a sound but a force that entered his being. It was as if creation itself addressed him. The words carried promise and power, declaring that he was not abandoned but chosen to carry forward a divine purpose. His lineage would spread across lands, his descendants would bring light to nations, and through them the covenant would live. The vastness of the desert no longer felt like exile, but a sanctuary of revelation. In his loneliness, Jacob encountered the infinite. Upon awakening, he felt both terrified and transformed. The ground beneath him, the same barren soil he had lain upon hours earlier, now seemed charged with sacred energy. The stone that had cradled his head appeared alive with memory. He spoke aloud, his voice trembling as he recognized what had occurred. This place was not ordinary ground, but the threshold of heaven. He set the stone upright and anointed it, not merely to mark a location, but to acknowledge a meeting point between worlds. Light began to rise along the horizon, soft and golden, washing over the landscape like a divine whisper. Each ray seemed to echo the glow of the ladder he had seen in his dream, and the air itself shimmered with meaning. The night of fear had turned into the dawn of purpose. Jacob, once a wanderer burdened by deception, now carried a revelation that would shape generations. In the quiet of that desert, under the same stars that had watched him weep, heaven had opened to him. What happened that night at Bethel reminds humanity that isolation often becomes the sacred doorway through which higher truth enters. When the world falls silent and all distractions fade, the heart becomes receptive to divine resonance. Jacob's vulnerability was not a weakness, but an invitation for transcendence. The ladder he saw rising into the stars would remain a mystery, but its message was clear. No human being is ever truly alone beneath the sky. Rising like a pillar of radiance, the ladder in Jacob's dream shimmered with a brilliance that defied physical description. It was not made of matter, but of light itself, a structure that seemed both tangible and intangible, visible yet transcendent. Each step glowed with an inner fire, as though composed of energy flowing from the heart of creation. The vision unfolded in silence, and Jacob perceived that what he saw was not confined to his own lifetime. It was a revelation beyond chronology, a window into the eternal architecture of divine communication. Movement along the luminous path revealed harmony between realms. Angels ascended and descended in a continuous cycle, embodying the perfect balance of spiritual exchange. Their ascent carried the aspirations and prayers of humankind. Their descent brought divine wisdom and grace. The rhythm of their motion mirrored the pulse of the cosmos itself, expansion and return, giving and receiving, creation and restoration. Through this living symbol, the dream conveyed that heaven was not remote, but intricately woven into the very order of existence. The ladder, stretching from earth to the highest heavens, suggested that creation operates as a unified continuum rather than divided realms. The ancient mind may have understood such visions not as abstractions, but as glimpses of invisible forces linking the material and the spiritual. To perceive a structure of light connecting the two was to behold the universe as an organism of divine harmony. Every rung represented a passage, a shift in vibration, an ascent toward greater awareness. Jacob had not stumbled upon fantasy, but had witnessed truth expressed through the language of vision. Angels, radiant travelers between dimensions, reflected both cosmic and spiritual principles. Their motion was not random, but purposeful, maintaining balance in the invisible framework of life. Ancient texts often portrayed these beings as currents of light, entities of frequency moving through unseen corridors. Jacob's dream might well have been an encounter with such cosmic order, a perception of how divine intelligence flows through layers of reality. Each movement on that ladder was an affirmation that the universe itself is alive with interaction between higher and lower worlds. For those who came after, the image of the ladder became more than sacred memory. It was an invitation to contemplate the relationship between humanity and the divine source. The vision spoke of connection, revealing that the distance between heaven and earth was not measured in miles, but in awareness. To climb was to awaken, to descend was to bring enlightenment into the world below. Through this symbol, faith and mystery met, merging the cosmic with the personal. Light in the dream did not merely illuminate, it communicated. Every glimmer, every shift in brightness carried meaning beyond speech. Jacob understood intuitively that what he saw was not limited to his own life, but belonged to a timeless truth about the universe. Across cultures, humanity has spoken of stairways, bridges, and columns of fire linking heaven and earth, and Jacob's ladder stands among these as a central revelation. The experience echoed through generations because it spoke to a universal memory, the awareness that reality is layered and that movement between those layers is possible. Mystics and scholars have long pondered whether Jacob's ladder was symbolic or literal. Perhaps it was both, for spiritual truths often manifest through physical metaphors. The luminous stairway may represent energy fields, sacred geometries, or channels of divine communication invisible to the ordinary eye. Such visions invite reflection not only on faith, but also on the nature of existence itself. The dream could signify that consciousness is capable of bridging dimensions when aligned with divine purpose. As the vision faded and Jacob returned to wakefulness, he carried within him not just a memory, but an imprint of light. The dream had etched a pattern into his soul, linking him forever to the mystery he had seen. The ladder may have vanished from sight, but its presence lingered in every breath, every prayer, every act of faith that followed. Humanity, too, inherited that imprint, a reminder that the pathway between worlds remains open to those who seek with humility and wonder. Stories of gateways connecting heaven and earth are as old as civilization itself. Across continents and centuries, ancient peoples built temples, towers, and monuments as physical reflections of spiritual ascent. These structures, often aligned with celestial bodies, were not simply feats of engineering, but acts of devotion, expressions of humanity's longing to reach the divine realm. Jacob's declaration at Bethel, "This is the gate of heaven," echoes this universal impulse to find entry into sacred presence. His vision of a ladder rising toward the stars resonates with myths of cosmic stairways found in Sumer, Egypt, Babylon, and beyond. In the cities of Mesopotamia, massive ziggurats rose like mountains of stone, their layered terraces ascending toward the sky. Each level symbolized a step closer to the realm of the gods, and priests would climb these artificial mountains during rituals meant to bridge the earthly and the divine. The most famous among them, Etemenanke, the House of the Foundation of Heaven and Earth, embodied this aspiration to unite both realms. These towering sanctuaries served as mirrors of the invisible ladder Jacob saw, architectural embodiments of humanity's eternal desire for communion with the celestial. Farther west, the ancient Egyptians built pyramids that aligned perfectly with constellations, especially the stars of Orion's belt and the bright point of Sirius. Such precision was not accidental. These alignments reflected a belief that the soul of the departed pharaoh would ascend through the heavens along a divine pathway to join the gods. Hieroglyphic inscriptions spoke of ladders of light and stairways of fire through which kings would rise to eternity. The language of Jacob's vision seems to echo these ancient ideas, suggesting that the dream of divine ascent is woven into the very fabric of human consciousness. Sumerian texts describe gates of the gods, places where deities would descend to the earth and mortals might approach them through ritual and reverence. These gates were often associated with celestial alignments, specific stars marking times of passage between worlds. In that ancient understanding, heaven was not far away but layered above, accessible through sacred portals when the proper harmony was achieved. Jacob's ladder, seen under the starlit sky of Bethel, may reflect a similar truth, the meeting of heaven and earth, not as abstraction, but as living intersection. Across cultures, mountains themselves were seen as natural altars, their peaks touching the heavens. The summit became the place of encounter, where mortals received revelation and divine law. Moses on Sinai, Elijah on Carmel, and others throughout sacred history experienced such meetings on high places. The ladder Jacob saw might be interpreted as the spiritual essence of that ascent, a vertical bridge uniting the same cosmic pattern that mountains symbolized in stone. The ancient world understood that elevation, whether physical or spiritual, was the language through which one approached the divine. When Jacob called the place Bethel, he affirmed what countless seekers before and after him would recognize, that sacred space is not created by human hands alone, but revealed through divine presence. The stone he anointed was not a relic of superstition, but a marker of transformation, a sign that heaven had touched earth. His words, "This is the house of God," became an archetype for every temple, sanctuary, and shrine that followed. Wherever people built altars or raised pillars to honor the divine, they echoed Jacob's awakening, that any place where heaven meets human awareness becomes holy ground. Architectural wonders of antiquity, whether the ziggurat of Babylon, the Pyramid of Giza, or the Temple of Jerusalem, stand as silent witnesses to humanity's enduring pursuit of connection with the unseen. Their stones align with stars. Their corridors channel light at specific times of the year, as if the builders sought to recreate on earth the very ladder Jacob saw in his dream. The convergence of architecture and astronomy reveals that ancient civilizations viewed the cosmos as a temple, and their sacred sites as gateways through which divine energy descended. Jacob's ladder, though seen in a dream rather than carved in stone, shares this essence. It was a spiritual structure more enduring than any monument, for it existed in the realm of vision where time cannot erode. The same impulse that led ancient builders to raise towers toward the sky flowed through Jacob's heart that night. Humanity's longing for the divine is not born of ambition, but of remembrance, a deep awareness that the soul once knew union with heaven. Each culture, through its temples and myths, sought to restore that union, to reopen the gate that separates the visible from the invisible. In every age, people have looked upward and wondered if the heavens conceal more than distant light. The story of Jacob's ladder, like the great monuments that align with the stars, reminds that the connection between worlds has never been entirely severed. The gate of heaven remains not in one place, but wherever faith meets awe, wherever the human spirit reaches beyond itself to touch the eternal mystery that calls from above. Movement along Jacob's radiant ladder was not random or chaotic. It was deliberate, filled with purpose beyond human comprehension. Angels ascended toward realms of divine light, carrying the essence of prayer, longing, and devotion rising from the earth, while those descending bore answers, guidance, and strength. Their journey mirrored the heartbeat of creation, a pulse of interaction between spirit and matter, heaven and earth. To witness such motion was to glimpse the hidden flow of divine communication, a reminder that existence is constantly bridged by unseen messengers. Ancient writings describe angels not merely as figures of beauty, but as embodiments of energy, intelligence, and order. Their presence represented the harmony of divine will moving through the universe, maintaining the equilibrium that sustains all things. Jacob's vision captured that truth in motion, the perpetual exchange between above and below. Through these luminous travelers, divine consciousness reached into human experience, not as distant authority, but as living presence intertwined with daily existence. The ascent and descent of angels symbolize the continuous dialogue of creation, a reminder that no prayer rises unheard, no tear falls unnoticed. When Jacob lay under the stars, unaware of the realms surrounding him, the heavens opened to reveal these messengers moving with silent grace, each being carried light within, radiant beyond measure, their forms like flowing fire reflecting the purity of divine thought. Ancient traditions across cultures spoke of similar entities, beings who could traverse the boundaries between planes, whose radiance shone brighter than sun or star. They were guardians of knowledge, keepers of mysteries, servants of the eternal, whose work unfolded beyond mortal sight. Jacob's dream gave humanity a rare glimpse into their sacred motion, a moment when invisible order became visible. Light was their garment, sound their language, and purpose their essence. Through every culture's sacred texts, Hebrew, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Persian, and beyond, these celestial beings appeared as envoys between gods and mortals. Each description differed in form but not in essence. They all embodied the bridge between realms. They carried messages that altered destinies, stood beside prophets, strengthened kings, and comforted the exiled. To see them in motion was to understand that divinity communicates through action as much as through speech, through movement that sustains the rhythm of creation itself. The dream revealed not only that angels exist, but that their work is constant. While human eyes see separation, divine order knows only connection. Those messengers traverse dimensions of existence that stretch beyond time, maintaining harmony across realms, both seen and unseen. Ancient mystics believed that every act of kindness or cruelty on earth echoed through these channels, altering the balance of light. Jacob's vision reminds that human choices resonate far beyond their visible consequence, touching chords that extend upward into eternity. Their ascent and descent might also represent the continual exchange between divine wisdom and human understanding. Each angel ascending could signify an awakening soul rising toward greater truth, while each descent mirrors illumination, returning to earth through inspiration, prophecy, and grace. The ladder becomes a living symbol of communication, where heavenly insight meets earthly consciousness. Through these movements, humanity participates in the vast conversation of creation, whether aware of it or not. Light-bearing messengers also appear in stories where divine energy takes visible form, flames that do not consume, voices carried on wind, or sudden clarity that pierces confusion. Angels need not always appear as figures with wings. Their presence can manifest as intuition, healing, or an encounter that changes the direction of one's life. The dream of Jacob captures this mystery perfectly. Angels represent not distant beings, but the nearness of divine order itself, operating continuously through reality. Jacob's astonishment stemmed not only from the sight of these travelers, but from understanding that they move both toward and away, that heaven is not a fixed realm, but a living network of motion. The divine reaches downward while the human reaches upward, and between the two, the messengers maintain eternal flow. In that awareness lies a truth deeper than theology. Creation itself breathes through communion. Angels are the breath of that communication, ensuring that light forever travels between realms. When Jacob awoke from his vision, dawn painted the desert in hues of gold and rose. He felt an unfamiliar stillness within, as if his heart had been touched by eternity. The place where he had lain was no longer ordinary ground. It pulsed with memory, energy, and meaning. With trembling hands, he took the stone that had cradled his head and lifted it upright, pouring oil upon it as an act of consecration. In that simple gesture, he transformed wilderness into sanctuary, naming it Bethel, House of God. What had been barren land now stood as a doorway between worlds. A sacred presence lingers wherever heaven once touches earth, and Bethel became such a place. For generations, its name carried weight and reverence, a symbol of divine encounter. The pillar Jacob raised was not an idol, but a marker of experience, a tangible reminder that holiness can dwell in the unlikeliest of places. In setting the stone, Jacob declared that the invisible had become visible, that spiritual reality could manifest in physical form. His act captured a timeless truth, that divine energy seeks expression in matter, that every sacred place begins with awareness. Bethel represented more than a memory. It became an archetype for all sacred ground. Across cultures and ages, humans have sought to recreate that moment of connection, building temples, shrines, and sanctuaries where divine presence could dwell. From mountain peaks to hidden groves, from pyramids to cathedrals, every sacred site echoes Jacob's awakening. Each one says, "Surely the eternal is in this place," even when the physical surroundings seem plain. What transforms space into holiness is recognition, the ability to perceive the unseen dimension interwoven with the visible. Spiritual resonance defines such locations, a vibration that draws the soul inward. Pilgrims often describe an unexplainable calm, a stillness that feels alive, as if the air itself listens. Bethel embodied that sensation, the intersection where divine energy intersects the human world. The ladder Jacob saw had vanished from sight, but its essence lingered, flowing through that ground like an unseen current. When he declared it the gate of heaven, he acknowledged a truth known by mystics throughout time. Certain places act as conduits where the veil between realms grows thin. Humanity's longing to dwell near divine presence leads to the creation of sacred architecture, each structure designed not merely for shelter, but for alignment. Builders across civilizations oriented their temples towards solstices, equinoxes, or specific stars, attempting to harmonize earthly space with celestial rhythm. Bethel stands at the beginning of this tradition, where alignment was not achieved through geometry, but revelation. The stone pillar symbolized the axis connecting heaven and earth, the same concept later expressed through obelisks, altars, and spires reaching upward toward the infinite. Across cultures, such sacred places were believed to radiate energy that could heal, inspire, or awaken. Ancient peoples spoke of thin places, where the world of spirit and the world of flesh nearly touch. Bethel was one of these, a point of convergence where heaven's vibrations sang through the ground. Those who approached it entered not only a geographical location, but a field of divine resonance. Every genuine place of worship, no matter the faith, carries a reflection of Bethel's mystery, the meeting of infinite and finite, silence and sound, spirit and matter. Jacob's naming of Bethel also marked a personal transformation. The man who once deceived his brother now recognized divine reality with awe and humility. His heart shifted from ambition to reverence. Bethel became a mirror of his own awakening. As heaven opened around him, his inner world opened as well. That dual revelation, the outer and the inner, has defined every encounter with the sacred since that night. Humanity's spiritual journey mirrors Jacob's moment, where awareness turns exile into homecoming. Through Bethel, the narrative of faith gained a center, a physical expression of divine promise. Centuries later, prophets would recall that place as the foundation of covenant, a sign that divine presence does not abandon creation but chooses to dwell within it. Every sanctuary built since echoes Jacob's stone, an offering of acknowledgement that even soil can become holy when touched by awareness. The gate of heaven remains wherever hearts awaken to divine proximity, wherever the ordinary becomes extraordinary through perception. Sky above Bethel that night was not empty darkness. It was alive with patterns, geometry, and silent speech. Stars burned like symbols etched upon a divine scroll, each one carrying meaning older than words. Ancient peoples gazed upon these lights not merely as decoration of the night, but as the handwriting of eternity. The heavens served as both map and message, a mirror of spiritual order written in fire. Jacob's vision unfolded beneath this cosmic tapestry, suggesting that his dream might have aligned not only with revelation, but with the celestial arrangement visible above him. For civilizations across time, stars were sacred teachers. Sumerians charted their movements, Egyptians aligned temples with their rising, and Hebrew poets sang of the heavens declaring glory. Patterns in the sky guided calendars, rituals, and pilgrimages. But beyond practicality lay deeper intuition, that the cosmos itself spoke in symbols, revealing divine intention through motion and light. When Jacob saw angels ascending and descending, perhaps he witnessed not only a spiritual event, but a reflection of this universal language, the rhythm of stars, planets, and constellations moving according to sacred design. Cosmic order reflected spiritual truth. The regularity of the heavens taught humanity about faithfulness and balance, about time unfolding according to unseen law. Each constellation carried mythic meaning, Orion as the hunter of light, Pleiades as cluster of unity, Sirius as herald of rebirth. Ancient minds read these figures not as fantasy, but revelation, a conversation between creation and creator. Jacob's ladder, luminous and vertical, may have mirrored those patterns, embodying the same order the heavens displayed horizontally across the sky. His vision and the stars together formed one continuous message, that divine communication is everywhere for those who can read its signs. Sacred geometry connected earth and sky in profound harmony. Structures built upon that understanding, pyramids, temples, stone circles, became three-dimensional reflections of the heavens. Jacob, sleeping upon bare ground, encountered that alignment naturally, without blueprint or instrument. The place where he rested coincided with cosmic timing, as if the heavens themselves chose that moment to unveil their hidden structure. His vision stood as an early revelation of celestial order, proof that divine intelligence expresses itself through both spirit and mathematics, light and law. Ancient mystics often describe the universe as a great ladder of spheres or planes, each level corresponding to a frequency of existence. From the lowest realm of matter to the highest domain of pure spirit, creation unfolded in perfect proportion. Jacob's dream can be read as a vision of that same truth, a moment when the soul glimpsed the architecture of reality, stretching from dust to infinity. The language of stars and the ladder of light told the same story in different forms, that everything in existence participates in a single divine harmony. Priests and astronomers of old looked to the heavens to discern seasons of revelation, believing that divine will could be traced through the movement of the skies. Every eclipse, every alignment of planets carried spiritual meaning. Jacob's encounter, occurring beneath that immense celestial clock, may have been timed according to those hidden patterns. Perhaps his ladder corresponded with a specific alignment. A doorway in the heavens momentarily opened. In such moments, the veil between dimensions thins, and messages from higher realms flow into human awareness like light pouring through a crack in stone. Stars themselves became symbols of guidance. Shepherds followed them. Travelers navigated by them. Prophets interpreted their configurations as signs of divine timing. When Jacob lay under their glow, his life stood at a turning point. His destiny, like the path of the constellations, was shifting toward fulfillment of promise. The same heavens that watched over ancient temples now bore witness to his awakening. Each twinkling light above him reflected a rung of the ladder he would later describe, a map of ascent drawn across the night. Humanity's fascination with the sky continues because it touches something eternal within. To gaze upward is to remember origins, to feel that consciousness itself extends beyond the confines of the world. The stars invite reflection not only on creation's grandeur, but on its intimacy. The same light that guided patriarchs still shines upon modern seekers, whispering the same truth. Heaven and earth are intertwined, each mirroring the other in perpetual dialogue. Jacob's vision remains a bridge between those realms, translating cosmic order into human understanding, transforming the night sky into a living scripture written in light. Rising from the plains of Shinar, the Tower of Babel once stood as humanity's audacious attempt to reach the heavens by its own power. Bricks were laid with pride rather than devotion, and each stone reflected ambition rather than reverence. The builders sought to ascend, not through communion, but through conquest, to make a name that would defy mortality. Their creation was monumental, but its foundation rested upon self-glorification, and that flaw would cause its collapse. In that towering symbol of human will, heaven was treated as a frontier to be conquered, rather than a realm to be received. Contrast that image with Jacob lying alone in the wilderness. No walls, no towers, no architecture of human design, only sky and sand. He was not seeking to rise. He was resting, vulnerable, open. His ladder appeared not from his labor, but through revelation, descending toward him as a gift. Where Babel reached upward by pride, Bethel opened downward by grace. Both moments tell of humanity's desire for contact with the divine, but one approached through arrogance, while the other through surrender. The distinction between them marks the boundary between human effort and divine encounter. Ancient civilizations believed that their temples and towers acted as stairways between earth and the celestial realm. Ziggurats, pyramids, and sacred mounds all mirrored the mountain of the gods, embodying the yearning to touch the eternal. Builders oriented these structures towards stars, crafting them as reflections of heavenly order. To ascend such architecture was to symbolically rise toward divine presence. Yet even these grand creations could not capture what Jacob experienced. A living bridge, not made by human hands, an intersection of realities that transcended architecture. The story of Babel reveals that when humanity seeks the heavens through domination, separation follows. The confusion of language that descended upon the builders represented more than punishment. It mirrored the inner fragmentation caused by spiritual pride. Unity founded on ego collapses, while unity founded on humility endures. When Jacob beheld the ladder, he experienced the restoration of that unity. Communication flowed freely between heaven and earth, angels moved in perfect harmony, and divine speech reached his heart without distortion. What Babel destroyed, Bethel restored. Sacred architecture across ages often reflects this same duality, the tension between imitation and revelation. Monuments built with reverence serve as vessels of divine energy. Those raised for self-exaltation become empty shells. Ancient temples aligned with celestial rhythms capture genuine communion, their geometry harmonizing with cosmic frequencies. Jacob's encounter, though unconstructed, embodied that same alignment. He found himself at the precise intersection where divine energy intersected the human world, proving that sacredness is not confined to structure, but to awareness. Babel's collapse teaches that spiritual ascent cannot be engineered through ambition. The divine cannot be coerced, calculated, or reached by height of stone. Only when the human heart yields does the heavenly gate open. Jacob's revelation beneath open skies shows that holiness arrives through invitation, not invention. Every ladder of pride leads to confusion, while every act of humility invites revelation. The celestial ladder differed from Babel's tower not in height, but in purpose. It existed to connect, not to dominate. Architectural symbolism in scripture and myth often centers on vertical motion. Towers rise, ladders descend, mountains stand between heaven and earth. This verticality expresses the soul's innate drive toward transcendence, the longing to reunite with its source. In Babel, that longing became distorted by ego. In Bethel, it was purified through surrender. Humanity still builds in both ways, sometimes through monuments of pride, sometimes through altars of devotion. The difference lies not in material but in motive. Stone can defy or it can adore. Jacob's ladder and Babel's tower serve as mirrors for two kinds of civilization. One that reaches upward to control, another that opens upward to receive. Across history, whenever faith turns into competition, language divides and meaning fragments. When faith returns to humility, connection is restored. Bethel became the antidote to Babel, a sacred geometry of spirit rather than stone. Its architecture was invisible yet indestructible, made of light instead of brick, held together by divine resonance rather than mortar. Each generation faces the same choice, to build towers of self or to awaken ladders of revelation. Every culture that seeks heaven without reverence repeats Babel's mistake. Every soul that opens in awe experiences Bethel's truth. The contrast between those two visions, one born of ambition, the other of grace, continues to echo through all human striving. The true architecture of heaven cannot be constructed but only revealed, and its blueprint is written not upon clay tablets or papyrus scrolls, but within the awakened heart. As Jacob's vision faded into dawn, its meaning began to unfold far beyond his lifetime. The celestial ladder did not only span the sky, it mirrored the soul itself. Within every human being lies a path of ascent, invisible to the eyes but real to the spirit. Each rung represents a state of awakening, a movement toward greater alignment with divine reality. To climb this ladder is not to depart from the world, but to transform perception, to see creation as infused with sacred presence. The gateway of Bethel stands also within, waiting to be recognized. The inner journey begins where silence meets awareness. When thought quiets and desire loosens its grip, the first rung appears. It is faith, not as doctrine, but as trust in the unseen order that sustains existence. This initial ascent shifts focus from external struggle to inward listening. As faith deepens, the heart opens, and the second rung emerges. Repentance, not of guilt, but of remembrance, turning away from forgetfulness toward presence. Through these steps, The soul begins to remember its origin in divine light. Higher rungs reveal wisdom, compassion, and love, each one expanding consciousness. Wisdom clears perception, revealing unity beneath diversity. Compassion dissolves separation, teaching that all life moves within one rhythm. Love, the purest rung, draws the soul upward through resonance rather than effort. Ascending this inner ladder does not require motion, but surrender. Each stage releases another veil, allowing more light to pass through. The ascent is inward, yet its radiance reaches outward, touching others through word, action, and being. Ancient mystics across cultures described similar journeys, using different symbols: trees of life, rivers of ascent, spirals of fire, or paths of stars. All express the same truth, that humanity carries within the structure of divine return. Jacob's dream revealed it outwardly, but its true completion unfolds within the individual heart. To see angels moving upon the ladder is to sense the continuous exchange between divine inspiration and human response occurring in every soul. Prayer ascends, grace descends, and between the two flows communion. Each step along this inner ascent challenges illusion. Pride must give way to humility, fear to trust, restlessness to peace. Those who climb learn that heaven is not a distant destination, but a state of consciousness unfolding through transformation. Jacob's night under the stars becomes a metaphor for every seeker's journey. Solitude preceding illumination, struggle preceding clarity. The vision at Bethel continues within all who dare to listen to silence until it begins to speak. Spiritual traditions describe this ladder as both perilous and luminous. Each ascent demands purification, each descent brings service. The higher one rises in awareness, the more one becomes a vessel through which divine energy flows into the world. The angels Jacob saw ascending and descending symbolize this rhythm within the awakened soul: aspiration rising, compassion returning. To live in harmony with that rhythm is to participate in the very movement of heaven itself. Beyond stages and symbols lies the realization that the ladder never truly leaves the earth. Every act of kindness, every word of truth, every silent prayer becomes a step upward. Climbing the spiritual ladder is not an escape from the world, but an embrace of it with clearer vision. The divine light that shone above Jacob's head also shines within every heart that chooses love over fear. To recognize it is to stand once again at the gate of heaven, though one's feet still touch the dust. Each human life becomes a reflection of that ancient dream, a bridge between realms. The soul ascends through devotion and returns through compassion, maintaining the flow Jacob witnessed in his sleep. What appeared to him as angels of light still moves through the inner sky of consciousness, carrying messages between the eternal and the temporal. To awaken to that movement is to discover that the ladder never vanished. It was never outside, it was always within. Jacob's dream beneath the stars remains one of the most enduring mysteries in sacred history, a vision that refuses to fade even as centuries unfold. The ladder he beheld was not confined to his time or his journey. It stands as a symbol of eternal relationship between heaven and earth, a reminder that divine communion never ceases. The same bridge of light that touched the sands of Bethel continues to stretch through the soul of humanity, inviting every generation to perceive what Jacob saw, that heaven is nearer than it appears, and that divine grace descends continually upon those who remain open to receive it. When prophets, sages, and mystics across ages spoke of divine union, they echoed the same truth Jacob encountered that night. The connection between the human and the divine is not built once and forgotten. It breathes through every act of faith, compassion, and love. The ladder, radiant and alive, represents this perpetual movement, the endless flow of divine intention into the human heart and human aspiration toward the divine. Creation itself participates in this rhythm, Oceans rise and fall, stars burn and fade, hearts hope and remember, all mirroring the eternal motion between above and below. Jacob's vision found its fulfillment in a truth that later generations would articulate through the image of the living bridge, the embodiment of divine communication entering human experience. Every messenger, every revelation, every miracle continues that same current of grace first glimpsed in his dream. The words spoken to Jacob, promises of presence and blessing, still echo across the spiritual landscape of humanity, reminding that no distance, no silence, no shadow can sever the thread between Creator and creation. Each prayer whispered beneath an open sky, each gesture of mercy offered to another, each act of forgiveness carried out in quiet sincerity becomes a rung on that same ladder. Humanity ascends not through towers of ambition or rituals of power, but through kindness, patience, and truth. The ladder stands unseen in the heart, its foundation rooted in daily life, its summit touching eternity. To live with awareness of that connection is to walk through the world as Jacob did after his vision, transformed, awake, and filled with awe. Every age finds its own language for what Jacob witnessed. Some call it enlightenment, others communion, union, or awakening. The words differ, but the experience remains one. The realization that the divine dwells not in some distant realm, but within the fabric of life itself. The ladder does not belong to the past, but to the eternal now. And every moment of awareness recreates Bethel wherever the soul stands in wonder. When Jacob set his stone upright and named the place House of God, he unknowingly gave language to an everlasting truth, that all creation is the dwelling place of the divine. Every sunrise, every breath, every spark of hope carries the same sacred essence. Humanity's role is not to build another tower, but to awaken to the one already within, to walk the invisible steps that rise through conscience, gratitude, and love. Through such ascent, heaven's light continues to flow through the earth, renewing what has grown weary, healing what has been broken. Even in an age where technology reaches higher than any ancient tower, the true ladder remains spiritual, not mechanical. It exists wherever people remember to look inward, to listen for the quiet voice that speaks beneath the noise. Modern life may distract and divide, but the connection Jacob saw cannot be severed. The ladder still glows beyond perception, an eternal architecture of light holding every soul within its span. Each act of goodness brightens it further. Each prayer strengthens its structure. The bridge stands because it was built not by human hands, but by divine compassion. The story of Jacob's ladder endures because it touches the deepest longing of humanity, the desire to be connected, understood, and held by something greater than self. It reminds that the divine has never been absent, only unnoticed. The angels still ascend and descend. The covenant of presence continues. Heaven is not silent, and earth is not forsaken. The ladder shines still, bridging infinite light with human dust, eternity with every heartbeat. Jacob's vision of the celestial ladder reminds every soul that the distance between heaven and earth is not measured in space, but in awareness. Each heart that opens in faith becomes part of that bridge, allowing divine light to flow through ordinary life. The story of Bethel is not a tale locked in ancient time. It is a mirror of what continues within us all. The invitation remains to awaken, to see that the ground beneath our feet can still become the house of God. If this message has inspired you, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss new reflections on faith, mystery, and divine wisdom. Remember to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences, and share it with those close to you so that the light of these teachings may reach hearts far and wide. Your support helps this community grow and allows the message of spiritual connection to continue shining across the world.